today in history, we'll be talking about the first part of the independence of the Haiti. And so, just to begin with, where is Haiti? Haiti is on the left side of the Isla Española, which is the name of this whole thing over here. It's really close to Jamaica and Cuba, Puerto Rico also. And so what happens is that in this side of the Atlantic, we have France and Spain. And so Spain found out this island in like 1647, and then in 17 something, I don't remember. Um, France took the left side, which is Haiti. And so, but back then it was called Saint Domingue, and right. And so, what happened back in 1790? There was the National Assembly. They were still in the French Revolution, and when it ended, like France was completely broke, and all countries were broke because they were in war with Napoleon Bonaparte, and so they needed money. And here, these islands here, they call the Sugar Islands because they plant there a lot of cane, sugar cane, and it's very profitable because sugar back then was very uh very expensive, and they needed a lot of slaves to work there. And all right, everything was running sweet and smooth, but then there was a guy called Jean Auger, and that guy who was like un homme politique. He was a politic, and he was how do you say that? He was a mixed. Oh, not that. Um, yeah, this. He was 3/4 European and 1/4 um, African. So he was mixed. And that Jean Auger, he had land and slaves, and he wanted to vote, but he couldn't. And then on 1791, there was a decree was declared that everyone had to be had full citizenship if they were an active people, active citizen, and he had land and slaves, so he could vote. And so he went um, to Haiti, actually Saint Domingue, and he tried to use his voting power there, but he couldn't, and so he was very upset. And what he did, he just tried a revolution. But to have uh, a idea of it, it was 500%, 500%, 5,000 were slaves from all the population. 40,000 were like between quotes, quote unquote, pure white people, and 28,000 were like mixed people, like him. And so he called the mixed people and went and tried a rebellion, but he should have like called a bit of the white or even the slaves, like not even the slaves, but it would be the best would be the slaves because they are in greater quantity. But it failed, and then he was executed. But later on, like 2 years, a couple years after, uh, everybody had full citizenship, and yeah, but the slaves didn't have, because they were slaves, and so they made a revolt, and they were like way more like they would win by sheer force, and so they began to fight. And the guy that commanded them was very smart and clever, and his name was Toussaint Louverture. This guy here, he was a very good man, an honored man. Um, he fought for the liberty of his men, his equal, and everything was running sweet and smooth until the French government, they like didn't like, because they were broke, and then if um, there's no slaves, they cannot have profit, and so they sent out 7,000 troops under the command of Southonac. Uh, Southonax, man, Southonax. Let me just see his name. His name is Southonax. I don't know his name. Southonax. Yeah, Southonax. Yep, Southonax. Yep, this one. And he tried to fight, but first he teamed up with these 68,000 people, but he couldn't win. And so what he did, he declared the liberty to the slaves, but they were like, they didn't believe completely. But then a year later, it was confirmed by the French government. And so this guy, this Toussaint Louverture, teamed up with him, with Sonthonax, and this other teamed up with the British. And they started a fight, and Napoleon wasn't liking it because he was losing. He wasn't getting money because there was no slaves, and so he sent out his right men. It was Jean Leclerc. He was a very bad man, but it was his right hand man. And it's not Jean Leclerc. It's Charles Leclerc. Not that one. The other one. Napoleon Bonaparte. Bonaparte. Yeah, that one. Charles Victor Emmanuel Leclerc. Yep. And he went with 40,000 troops, and they fought, and they were winning, but there was many losses. They were winning, but there was many losses. There were many losses. And so he said, I'm winning, and there's no way you can win me. And so we should talk like civilized people. And Toussaint, he agreed, and they met, but he didn't. Charles didn't keep his promise, and he took some soldiers and captured him, Toussaint, and he was executed in France. And there is a famous quote from Toussaint Louverture. There is, he said it in the boat to France. difference. Boy, where is it? All right, it's here on the end. He says, and I found it very cool. In overthrowing me, you have cut down in Saint Domingue only the trunk of the tree of liberty. It will spring up again, for they are many and they are deep. And he was a very good man, and he died because Charles didn't agreed with the promise. And also he had his second man, which was Dessalines, and he was like savage. But then Jean-Jacques Dessalines, but then he betrayed him. It was very awesome. It was like Caesar and Brutus. They were best friends. He was his right hand man, but Dessalines betrayed him and went to the other, to Charles Leclerc.